and today we're going to talk about Domus Analytics and Sun Stats. And I'm going to have Joanna go through that and drive the process. But it's important. I mean, I think statistics are interesting. I think they tell a story, and I think that your consumers are extremely hungry for them. There's an event in town every year called
Market Trends.
Yeah, Market Trends.
It used to be Market Watch. I always want to say Market Watch. Market Trends.
Market Trends, and it is just about statistics and what's happening, and it paints a picture. So a lot of people, utilize the stats. And what I thought was interesting is I have a really good friend of mine who lives in Denver, Colorado. She was a past client of mine, and she's a real estate broker. She has a very boutique, high-end real estate company out there in Denver. And she travels the world. And I don't know how she gets any real estate done with her travel schedule, but love her to death. She's like a sister to me. And she posts, I saw her post this morning, was medium home prices between Kansas City and Philadelphia for townhouses, single families, and did this whole analysis on the differences in areas. I thought it was brilliant too. And just from that one post, she had like 1,000 engagements and people, and then she did another post about the New Orleans cost of living, and she did the different areas. So they've got the Garden District and those types of things around there. So I thought it was very interesting that she got very creative with the Super Bowl and the stuff she was posting. But she got all that from a source, right? So we're going to talk about those sources today and how you can be creative in helping you get that attention, consumers, customers, past clients, and new people looking for you as being the expert in the marketplace. So as you get questions, obviously, I think the person asked has been on here before because they're using the question and answer box. But the chat is turned off because we're in webinar mode. But with that, I'll have Joanna go ahead and kick it off.
Awesome. So we're going to go through 3 different tools today. We're going to go through Domus Analytics, which is provided to you by the Florida Gulf Coast MLS. With that, we are getting an upgrade and a facelift to that system in probably a month. I think it looks like we're getting that in the next month. What we teach you guys today, you'll be able to use in the new system, but just know that there's more data points coming, there's more filters coming, and it's going to kind of have a new, softer look to it. So that's exciting things to look forward to. And then we're also going to jump into tools offered to you through Florida Realtors and right inside the Matrix system. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
And those upgrades that they do, those come from your comments. Suggestions, ideas. When we go to conferences and we have conversations with vendors, and every year in my role with this organization, I like to beat people up for money, especially when it comes for time for renewing contracts. And this year we were able to renegotiate 3 contracts, saving significant money to be able to bring new things in. But these conversations we have with them and the changes that a lot of these companies make are because of you. So if you've got ideas, you have things that you'd like to see, let us know. And we'll definitely bring it back to the vendors.
Domus Analytics is really, really good for listening to what the needs are. They take big interest in it, and they get excited about trying to create new things and new products and new filters and things like that. So Domus Analytics will be right here on your dashboard. This is their icon, and clicking into it is going to bring you to this page. Now, when you're in here, what you're looking at really is 5 different tools that exist inside of Domus. So each of these icons are clickable buttons into a tool, and they each do different things. Starting from left to right, each product gets more in depth with more options and more data. So the left-hand side is going to provide you something very basic. If you need to get in here, get something quick. And the further you move to the right-hand side, you're going to get more details, more options, and get more into the data. So it all depends on exactly what it is that you're looking for. We're going to start out with the market infographics by just clicking on that icon there. And you can see here that this is just a very basic infographic showing us a couple of data points. The options that you have here are to change out the month. So you can see we've already got the January data up. They update this data right around the 5th or the 7th of every month. So if you're going to be looking for February data, that will show up March, somewhere between the 5th and the 7th. They wait for everybody to close everything out. They obtain all that data, and then they publish it. But if you wanted to hop back in time, you certainly could go back to December, November, October. depending on what it is that you're looking for. If you're just looking to post out the latest data, you've got it. But if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody about what the market looked like at a certain point in time, you can utilize this to hop back in time. Your filters on this specific tool are going to be the type of residence. So single family, condominium, townhouse, villa, duplex, manufactured homes. That's a newer one that they added because we had a huge suggestion from our users for that. And then they have lot and land. So for this example, we'll keep it at single family. And then it automatically selects all of the cities that are inside of our MLS. But if you wanted to focus on one specific area, you could. So we can take this down to just Fort Myers. I know we usually pick on Cape Coral, so we'll give Fort Myers some love. And you can see here, as you select those different options, the stats continue to change. And if you wanted to select multiple cities, just focus on Lee County cities, maybe, you can add in Cape Coral and Fort Myers and watch those stats change. You do have one option over here as well. You can compare to the same month of the prior year or the prior month. So right now, this is comparing us to January of 2024. If we changed this toggle to the prior month, it would be December of 24 if it's what the comparisons are. And each of those comparisons are shown with either a red or green arrow in each box. So for this, you've got median sales price. We can see that in January, it was 405,000 for both Cape Coral and Fort Myers. It is down from last year, January, 5.8%. 437 closed sales, down 4.2% from last year. Active inventory, we had 5,218 properties on the MLS, and that is up. So inventory is up. That's really not a surprise to anybody. Median days on market is 54, which is down 5.3% from last year, which I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear. The median price per square foot is 235, which is down 5.6%. And new listings into the system would be 1,773, which is up 17%. So your difference between your new listings, these are brand new that just came on in the month of January, and active inventory would be all the listings overall in the MLS system for the month of January. So this one is really, really simple. You can just take a screenshot of it, or you can use this little print icon down here in the bottom. You can print it out, save it as a PDF, upload it to social media, whatever it is that you are intending to do with it. Again, just something very simple. You want to come out here, you want to grab data really quick for a certain section of the market that's available to you with that first icon. Moving to the next one, this is the market review, and you're going to be able to see right away that this is just giving you a lot more details on the data. A lot of the data points are the same as what we looked at on the infograph, but this gives you a few more data points and length and time, and a few more options. So here again, you've got January, and if you wanted to hop back in time, your button is over here to change out the months. And then you've got single family, townhouses, condos, whichever that you need there, and your cities. We'll go back and do Cape Coral and Fort Myers again. All right, and you see here that we now have bar graphs, and these are also, you are able to move your mouse along and see each data point throughout the year. And then you see the percent of change. So before you had to choose, do you want to compare it to January of last year, or do you want to compare it to December of last year? Now you have both data points on here. And this is something that's a lot better to sit down if you're having discussions with somebody and you want to work through and talk about, maybe they sold their house or they bought the house last year and they're trying to see where the differences are. You can move your mouse along and show them what's happened over that past year and work through them with that. But again, you've got median sales price, the closed amount of closed sales that happened, median days on market, the list price received, the sold square footage, new listings, active inventory, and then months of supply. So a few more data points on there, but it is also interactive for you to go through. Now, with this graph, you first have the line graph, which is showing you the past 13 months. But if you just wanted to compare year to date, You can change this out to a bar graph and it'll show you in comparison where we're at 25 to 24. So you've got two different types there, and that does not allow for active inventory or months of supply, but it does allow it for the median sales, the closed sales, the median days on market, list price, square footage, and new listings. So just a few more options here as we continue to move right in the different tools here offered.
Yeah, and that's, I think, is important as you go on listing appointments, as you're working with buyers, to show that what it was last year versus this year, having the bar graph, being able to, look at all that stuff and be able to paint the story of what's happening. Because if you're seeing a trend and you're having that discussion with somebody, almost a year of inventory is on the market today. So if the house isn't priced right, marketed correctly, staged if necessary, etc., how long is it going to stay in the market, especially if it's not priced right? So.
All right, so we're going to move into weekly trends next. And this is exactly as it states. It shows everything in a weekly trajectory versus the year over year, month over month kind of thing. And you can see now that we also have more filters added. So first off, you're going to choose your data point that you want to look at. Before, we were given every single data point listed out on one infographic or one chart. Now you're going to choose which one you want to look at more closely. So median sales price, how many closed sales there are, maybe days on market. So we'll start off with median sales price. And you have this tiny little button over here that sometimes gets missed, but it's a very important button. You want to turn on show filters. And you can see now that instead of just the cities, we also have the geocodes or the county overall. We still have the property types here on the left. We'll leave it at single family. And then we'll go ahead and select just Lee County and leave these ones selected as is. You can also change out the price range, and that might seem silly for this section where you're looking at median sales price, but maybe you're looking at days on market, you're listing a house for 350,000. You're like, okay, well, what does the data look like for days on market for houses from 300 to 400,000? And that's why you would have this price range filter in there. Once you've selected out the parameters that you want, your graph here will change to your needs, and you can see the dates are running here along the bottom. It's going to show you week over week, all the way back to 1 year from today. So this is also a graph that you can follow along with and see each data point and where they were at, what the date was, and what the price was. So it's going to give you three main data points at the top here. You've got the same week in the prior year. So in 2024 of this week, the median sales price was $437,500, and that is up 5.7%. The prior week, meaning last week, our median sales price was $388,900. And then this would be your current week now in the current data that you have.
So in 1 week, the median home price jumped $80,000.
Yes.
That looks like an EKG, by the way, doesn't it?
I don't know if it's what your EKG is supposed to look like, but sure.
But that's a lot. So you probably had in here on the median sales price, you probably had some very large,
some big home sales.
$1 million home sales to drive that number up that far.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So we can move this into a different data point. You can look at closed sales. Give it a second to load there. So if you're trying to get a pulse on what the market's doing, how much is it dropping? Is it going up? You can see that this is a huge drop right around October. Well, you put your mouse over it, October 12th. They had a huge drop. But this will show you the closed sales throughout the past year. So last year they had 166. For this same week period in the year. Last week, 217, and the current week that ended on the 8th, 132.
Yeah.
And you've got all of these different data points, and there's a lot more in here now than what you were seeing before. So before on the infographic, you were given about like 6 or 7 different data points. And now you have all of these. You've got unsold listings. shows you how many are going unsold. They even do distressed units. So for those of you that are doing foreclosures and short sales, new listings, week supply of inventory. There's a lot of stuff out here that you can discover. It just depends on exactly what it is that you're looking for, what conversations you might be having. You can go out here, you can play with it. I promise you, you can't break it. We like to say that all the time, waiting for somebody to break it. Percentage of cash sales, percentage of closed sales, just a lot of different data out here for you to play with. All right, if we don't have any questions yet, I'm going to move to the next one. So we just finished up with weekly trends, and this one here is market insights. And again, you can see our charts are going to continue to grow. Our filters are going to continue to grow. The data we're given continues to move. So this portion of Domus Analytics is the one that got a most recent facelift. So a lot of what you see on here is probably what you're going to see in the next month throughout the other apps, as far as getting more filters, having a smoother, cleaner look. So right now we're looking at January. Again, if you want to drop back to December, November, October, anything like that, you can go back in time to compare data. And I'm going to instead here move from right to left to confuse you guys a little bit, but you are now comparing data to January of 2024. Here now, instead of just comparing to the prior month or the prior year, you have the option to figure out what you want to compare your data to. So maybe you just want to compare it to October of last year. You know, let's say your seller put their house on the market in October. You guys are sitting down to have that conversation. Are we going to move the price? What are we doing? They say, well, what's the difference in the market from our, you know, when we started this process to now? You can choose any month that you want to compare it to. It doesn't have to just be year over year if you don't want it to. So it looks like we have one question. Can you email your clients these charts? So right now, it does not have the option to. I know that they've had talks about, you know, having options to email the charts. What I will tell you guys is, one, you've got the print button here at the top. The older versions have it down at the bottom that you can download it. I will show you guys towards the end. There is a link for you guys to send out or embed it into your website, so that your clients can also go out here. Everything on this is interactive. It allows them to interact with it as well and choose months, choose you know, single family, choose cities and things like that. So towards the end, we'll go into how to embed it onto your website or send it out to your clients. But you can't set the filter for them and then only send them that chart. You know, if you want to control what data they're looking at, you're going to want to print it, download it, and send it out to them. All right, so again, we've got the comparison percentage, the actual data as it stands today, and what data it is you're looking at. So again, we're doing median sales price. If you wanted to change that out, you've got all of these different data points, and there are a lot more data points for you to play with in this version. We could go through all of them. We'd be here all day. If there is something in specific that you're looking for, come out here, look for it. If there isn't a data point, you know, if you don't see the data point that you're looking for, let us know. Again, they take in a lot of suggestions for doing different types of comparisons.
And I would just suggest this too. I mean, as you start to practice and play with this stuff, when you get interaction with a consumer, right, customer, whether it's a seller or a buyer, and they're starting to ask you questions, this is where you can go. I'll give you an example. I mean, if something happens, I had this conversation this past week at the broker office visit. They were talking about Domus, and he said every time he has an offer, he goes into Domus under market insights, right? If it's a cash offer, he's going with the cash sales.
Yeah.
And then he's dialing into the actual area that to see how frequent there's a cash sale, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, to support the offer, not support the offer, right? But providing some analytics about, is this a unicorn or is it a good offer, et cetera. But he said that's how he got to learn this product inside and out, is by every offer going in here, seeing what the market's doing. Is it really a good offer? Is it not a good offer? We know what we know, but sometimes the data is different. And maybe it's somebody, he gave the example, somebody had turned down 3 of the previous offers. And he was able to show that the market's going down in that zip code and that price is going down. They should grab the next offer they have because the first offer was better than the offer that they're currently getting. So.
Okay, Maggie, I see your question. I'm gonna go through this chart really quick and then we'll get to your question. And then the other question I got is, where is the link? We're gonna get to where the links are here in a few minutes. So that'll be covered at the end of the Domus section. So for this chart, you also have the options to change out the way that the data is displayed and shown. So a lot of people like the infographics because if you're not like a data-driven person or, you don't like the charts and the graphs, you just want something simple, go out there, grab the infographics real quick. But if you are a data nerd and you love the charts and the graphs and you want to be able to play with it and break it out and do different things, you can do that. So right now we're looking at a time series line, but you also could do a price distribution column. You can do a comparison column. We don't have it compared to anything at the moment, or a zip code map. So this is one of the newer features. If you haven't been in Domus in probably 3 months, these maps are really popular. It's a heat map of the prices, but it would also give you that for any type of data, right? If you did closed sales, that it's going to show us how many closed sales, where the most are in each area for, because right now we've got all of those areas selected. So let's go back to our time series line graph here. And you can see every time we change out what the chart type is going to be, it gives us these different options as well, because there are more options available in the line graph than there are the bar graphs or the heat map. So right now it's showing us monthly, which means each data point on here when we slide through it is monthly. If you wanted something that wasn't as jagged, you could do the quarterly and it's going to give you that smoother effect and then not give you as many data points. But the really fun thing here is the breakouts. So you can break it out by property type, you can break it out by city, area, zip code, and that is going to give you several comparisons. So in here, we've got the single family homes, the condos, and the townhouses selected for this example. If we wanted to break it out by property type, we'll give it a second to think. We now have those different property types on 3 different lines. Instead of all of them being together on the one line and showing their average, we can compare the single family to the condos to the townhouses in 3 different data points. And your filters here as well, you can see have continued to grow. So the previous tool that we were in had property type, county, city, and geo area. We now have zip code. We've got waterfront, which has been a big ask from everybody for a while now. New construction, yes or no, any financing type, and then you've got price range, square footage, year built, beds, baths, and acreage. You've got a lot of different tools. You can really, really narrow down to your specific situation that you're either trying to show somebody, like Jason said, work through an offer or anything like that. A lot of different things that you can do with this and really mold the chart into what you need it for specifically. So the question we have from Maggie is, example, you have a listing that has not sold for 6 months. Can you show an example of what we could show the seller for 6 months? Yes. So Jason, what do we want to do for the type of property? You want to set up a type of property? January.
Let's do
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll say they listed in August.
Let's do single family.
Okay. We'll do just a single family. We'll do Lee County. All right, new construction. We're gonna say no, it's a resale, right? Because it's sitting. Golf access?
No waterfront.
No waterfront? Okay. And then this would just be for closed sales. We're not doing that.
Yep.
So we'll just leave it at that for now. And this is the data you have on the median sales price. So what are you going to do if you sit down with your seller? They've got their house on the market for 6 months. You're trying to have a conversation with them. Are you just looking at median sales price, or are you looking at different data with them? Where do you
So
start?
I'm going to look at closed sales first.
Okay.
So let's look and see what closed sales are doing. And it's gonna think here, sales are down 37.1%. So that tells a story, right? You look at 6 months and that's actually January
So
to
since you
July.
started, seller, it's gotten a lot more.
Well, yeah, but this goes back to 18, so it's really not a
Yeah,
real
the
good.
whole chart. So you're
Yeah.
this is comparing to August of 24. So I went
Right.
back 6 months.
Yeah. So that side there, I mean, it's down 37%
Mhm.
on that. So you go close sale on that. Next, I would look at price per square foot of what's actually been sold. And look at that. So, you're slightly up. So it depends on what you've done for price adjustments between the time you listed to the time you are now. And then let's look at our drop down again.
So I think we started out with median sales price,
Yeah, look
which
at
is
median
like,
sales
that's the very obvious.
Right, those are up a little bit too. So pricing's coming up. It's just that the numbers are way down.
Well,
Right,
how
so-
fast do you want to sell your house, right?
Right.
Excuse the sirens behind us. They're coming for Jason.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at percent of list price to original price received as well. I mean, that's gonna tell you a story. Those are down or up actually over August.
Oh, wait, sorry, that's
yeah.
the wrong one.
Those are down. Okay, so I
Yeah.
thought they'd be, yeah. So down 8.1%. So I would look at, see, where you price that, when you need to move. Sold dollar volume, and we know that's gonna be way down 27% since you started. So the market took basically a halt since the house was listed 6 months ago. I mean, nothing's happening. So days on market to close, that's not relevant, but that tells you kind of from the time you get the contract to the time it closes,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. Home affordability index is an interesting one. Because that's gonna tell you what the actual affordability index is. It's actually down.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the interest rates, which is something that Domus books in your mortgage payment. Go up a little bit to mortgage payment. Those are up, right? So you look at PITI, those numbers are up. So the affordability is up, sales are down. Where's the house listed at? Something that's, kind of the information, but there's a ton of stuff in here that you can go over with them. How many new listings on the market? I bet you there's tons of new listings.
Yeah, so here's your
65% up.
competition.
So since you went on the market, sales are down because you got 836 more homes up, right? And I know that Maggie's question was specific to a zip code, so you could dial into a zip code.
Yeah.
You go into
Let's look. Answered.
33901.
Where's my mouse? Okay, there it is.
So if you want to just look at zip codes, you're gonna, it's yeah. Click off of that and go all the way down to the ones you want. 33901.
240.
That one.
There you go.
Yeah. So now you're looking specifically at 36 new listings. 31 since you.
That's what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's your mortgage rates. Yeah, so they're up 7.1%. I mean, so everything's showing that it's more expensive to buy and there's competition out there for the marketplace, and that, you've got less sales happening because the affordability is up, or it should be down. It's more expensive to own the house with your PITI. And then you got more competition you had before, right? And that's one thing that, sellers sometimes don't get is that, that first offer they get may be the best and only offer they get.
Yeah.
And they always want to hold up for something else and everything else. This is great, Doc. I mean, I always tell people, facts don't lie, people lie, right? So we say buyers are liars, facts don't lie, people lie. So this is a great deal for you to be able to have the facts of what's happening and dial it into that zip code to see, there are 22 more houses in the market since we listed yours, or 38 or whatever the number is. And here's what affordability's done, and here's what days on market's done. It's gone up, and you've got pricing that's going up as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that really gives you a look into the market insights tool. Again, there's a lot that you can go out there and play with. The last tool, which always seems to be everybody's favorite, and Maggie, if you're still on, I really think this will help you with your conversation example. This is pricing insights. If you were on our chat last week, we covered pricing insights a little bit. We told you guys to come on this week. We dive into it a little deeper. And let me close this one out. All right, so what pricing insights does is allows you to plug in a specific example. We love to use, the example of you're sitting down with your seller, you're trying to figure out where to price the home, or maybe if you need to change the price of the home, and you're going to plug in the specific parameters that fit the property, the example property you're looking at. So Maggie, if you are still on, she says, I'm here. Thanks, Maggie. Go ahead and give me an example property. I'll fill out all of this part based on the 33901, but maybe for your example property, do you have square footage and the price that it's listed at, or they're thinking of listing it at? Because we're going to need that for this example. We'll go ahead and fill in this part and do 33901. So if you don't have something, I'm just going to make it up.
901 at. Oh, yeah, you got Cape Coral listed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Joanna doesn't.
Clear your filters. I feel like I'm on a support call. Man, would you clear your filters?
It's usually a user error, but we don't like to tell people that. All right, so once you've got your filters selected out, she did, I'll get into that. You want to make sure you have something selected in each box, because you can see until we had something selected in each box, the chart down here was completely blank. So it will give you an error. It will tell you there's no chart for you until you have something selected in every single one of these boxes. For this example, for right now, I'm going to keep it where it shows us all the active, closed, and pending data, because that's what we like to compare our stuff to a lot. And I'm going to compare it to the last month of data. We're going to hide this filter. I'm going to see if Maggie, 475,000. Okay. So you're going to put the proposed price in here. And Maggie, I don't know how big your house is, but I'm going to leave the example one in here unless you have the square footage. We're just going to use it for now. But if you find the square footage, tell me and I'll plug it in. So what this chart does for you is it takes your proposed list price, and you can even use this with the buyer. Maybe they're trying to figure out where to put their offer in, right? Then you would just think of it as a proposed offer price, and you plug it in here at the top, and then you plug in the square footage. 2,100 with a pool. Very, very fancy. Okay, let's plug the 2,100 in here. All right, so for Maggie's lovely example here, this is the home with all of the filters plugged in for her specific example. Its proposed list price is 475,000 with a total square footage of 2,100. Now, what this does is creates a chart for you and shows you where you land amongst the stars or amongst your competition, your other listings, what's sold, what's under contract, and what's listed. So this black bar right here shows you what the median is for that area based on the parameters that you've plugged in. So if I were to change this out and show all of Fort Myers, it's going to give us a lot more data points, and it's going to move that bar to fit that parameter. And then the blue bar you can see here is what Maggie's example is listed at. So the price overall is running down here along the bottom, and the price per square foot, which it calculates for you based on what you've plugged in here, runs along this side here. You can see for Maggie's example, it is extremely close to where it should be, right there in the center. But what's great about this is a lot of times when we do this example, maybe the bar is way out here or way down here. You can see if it is priced way above where the average is, or if it's priced way below where the average is. And then you can see how far out this is a scatter plot. You can see how far out those data points are scattered. Is everybody really right around the median? Or are all of these listings really all over the place? You can see there's a few outliers. These are different listings that are currently active. those are in light blue. Your oranges are the ones that have closed. So if I start to hover over one of those orange dots, it shows me just exactly where those closed prices are. We see a lot of them are listed right around the center of those prices. And then the dark blues are going to be your pending ones here. Now with this, maybe you sit down with your seller, you're having that conversation and you're like, look, you're way out here, your price way above for price per square foot, your price way above for overall price for the area, we got to bring it down. And they say, well, yeah, but look, there's all these ones that are listed way out here. What about them? You can click on those. And when you click on them, it'll bring up the data down here at the bottom. It'll show you the MLS number, and that one's taking a really long time to load. There we go. It'll show you the MLS number, the street address. So you can go ahead and look it up and say, well, yeah, of course, they've got it sold for way more than you because, they've got all the upgrades that you don't have, or, whatever comparison type conversation you might need to have with them. But Maggie, this is really, really good. I mean, you're right there in the center cluster with the average. I'm going to give everybody an example for this area and list it like at 800,000 for, yeah. So you can see if we were to up the price, you can see how that chart moves, and it would show that you are way above the price per square foot, only a little bit over the average price for the area. And it gives you that idea there. We'll go back to, I think she said it was 475. So with the chart being like this, you also can look over here to the right and see that for this property, it's 54% above, or sorry, 54% below the average. And then your 31% chance based on square footage here. So this is the overall price. And then this is the square footage. So this gives you basic analysis instead of having to look at all these data points and try to figure out, well, what is this graph telling me? It's telling you those exact answers over here with this beautiful little gauge to kind of show you, if you're in the green, you're good. Once you're like up in the red and the yellow, maybe it's time to try to bring it back down to reality. And then it tells you based on the data points that you have, you've got 122 selected listings that are displaying here, and the average is 229 price per square foot, and then overall 350 is the average price there. It looks like we've got a good amount of questions. Was there a response for Domus about, oh, hi, Sage. Yeah, you had our question last week with the two single family residents. They are working on that this week. It's just displaying twice is all. So if you go into Domus and you happen to see two options for single family residents, they are working on that because they were doing the facelift that they're going to launch for us next month, and it just pulled the data in twice. So, all right, any other questions? I think that answers all the questions on Domus. And I know that this is everybody's favorite tool. It's also the one we get the most questions on. So if you feel confused at any point, you can call in, you can chat with us about it. We can walk you through it. But the biggest thing to know is, just take these filters down, make it fit your scenario, type in your price and your square foot, and let the data do the talking. So the blue is going to be where your property lands, and the black is going to be the average for that area so that you can compare your property and you can look at all the other properties around your property and figure out what everybody else is doing and how your property compares. All right, so the last piece that we have for Domus Analytics, you've got all of these great tools here that are for you to use. Go out there, play with it, whatever it is that you need it for, whether it's social media or a discussion piece. You've got 5 different ways to pull data. Down here at the bottom, it says double click to embed market stats in your website. And this was the question that we were getting before. So if you double click this button here, it'll bring you to the links that you can embed into your website. And it gives you 3 different tools, depending on which one that you're looking for, that you can embed into your website. It has a little instruction down here, but if you have a website provider, that developer that does it for you, just send them this code and tell them that you want it on a landing page, and they can easily do that for you. You can click on each of these and see what the consumer would see. And you can see that this is just like the infographic tool that you have. The market review shows those same graphs here. And again, the consumer can choose out the filters the way that they would want to. And then the market snapshot here gives them a lot more data to play with. So depending on which one you want on your site, or if you want all three, you can embed these into your site and share that with your consumers so that they can play with it as well. But if you're looking to just pull the data yourself and then send them a snapshot of what you're looking at, you're going to want to use those print buttons that you see in each of these tools down here in the corner. All right, if we don't have any more questions on Domus Analytics, we're going to move into Sunstats with 10 minutes left. All right, so Sunstats you can get to by going to sunstats.floridarealtors.org. Or you can just go to floridarealtors.org and they've got a big Sunstats button right up there at the top for you to click into. You will have to sign into this. This is not available to the open public. So if you have your Florida Realtors login, make sure you use that. If you don't know what that is, then you go ahead and create an account using your NERDS number and you'll be able to gain access to this. So right off the bat, it lands you on the dashboard. This is just some basic data that it's going to give you, but you can see here, they also have charts and infographics for you to use. The difference between Domus Analytics, which we provide you, and Sunstats is that you can pull data across the entire state. So right now, this is just showing Cape Coral, Fort Myers, MSA for single family homes. So this is just showing the area that you belong to, but you can change that. Do you know what an MSA is, Jason?
Market stats analysis.
Nope.
That was a really
That was
good
a
guess.
really good guess.
Really good guess.
You were so confident. I was like, oh, he knows. That's the one question we get with every time we do this webinar. It's a metropolitan statistical area. So that is what.
That was my second guess.
Yeah, I know you knew it. So we just try to make everybody feel good. So this is what the Census Bureaus use for statistical data, is how they map out areas. It's based on population density and an economic view of connectivity. So in here, you can click change and it'll show you what those MSAs are. So this is the Fort Myers Cape Coral one, but the reason we cover Sunstats is because you now have access to all of the different areas across Florida. So we're going to choose the whole state to give you like big picture here, but you can choose all of, they've got the different MSAs, whether it's Miami, Jacksonville. We get the question a lot for people want to pull data for Sarasota because we get compared to Sarasota a lot. But again, you can pull the whole state, our area, other areas, whatever you need. You can do all property types, single family homes, then they group together townhouses and condos, or you can do the manufactured homes. Once you've got it set to where you want to filter it, you can click apply. And then you've got all of your data here. So again, the dashboard is really just a place for you to come and collect data. It's not visually pleasing, but it's something really quick for you to look at. If you're just trying to figure out how many closed sales we had in the state of Florida, it's going to show you, they haven't pulled in January's numbers yet. Theirs usually come in about like a week and a half. We're right at that time where we should start to see the January numbers. They have to pull in the data from all of the MLSs across the state. It takes them a little bit longer. So we're looking at December's numbers for right now. And then they compare it to the year prior and they show you the percent of change. And then you get this really funny little line graph that's super small, and it just gives you an idea for a visual of trajectory of where it's headed. So you've got closed sales, cash sales and percentage of closed sales, median sales price, average sales price, dollar volume. There is a whole bunch in here, very similar to what you saw in Domus. But again, this is for either the whole state of Florida or your different areas. Along the top, you can move into your chart builder, and it's going to show you your different parameters running along the left-hand side. So again, this is going to automatically bring me to Fort Myers, Cape Coral, because that's where my membership is. If I wanted to, I could open it up to the whole state of Florida, and it'll give us that visual on the left. So the metric right now that this graph is showing is closed sales, but if we wanted to change it out, we just use this drop down here. We can look at median sales price. You can look at the different types of property. Do you want to look at it month over month or quarter over quarter, year over year? Or you could select a specific date range. You can choose different chart options. And if you want to get fancy, you've got advanced options and you can really start to narrow down your parameters on that, a lot like you did in Domus. With this chart though, you want to make sure you click apply. It does not just do it automatically, and your chart will update here. And then you also get all of the data below. So if you're looking for the chart, the visual aspect of it, that's up top. And then all of the data points are down below, depending on what it is that you're looking for. Now, they do have the options here where you can download it and it will open up a image piece. I know that we're just sharing the web browser right now, so I'm not sure. I'll probably have to, let's see. So that you guys can see this. Switch to this screen. So when you download these charts, they actually plug in your branding here down below. This would be your logo and your information down below, but it does provide you an image so that you can share that onto social media. You can send it out to your clients, plug it in where you need to, and you would update that information up here in the settings bar. You do have the option to download it without that branding if you needed to plug it into social media. Maybe you don't want all of that fluff on there. That option is available to you. And then the last option that they have here is the infographic creator. So this is a lot like that first option we showed you on Domus Analytics. Theirs is very, very colorful. The question I get a lot is, can you change those colors? No, but at least they're Floridian colors. They're nice and bright. But what you can do is change out those parameters like we did on the prior chart. You can choose what shows in each of these blocks. So you've got 6 blocks. It automatically is going to show you these ones, but maybe you want to change out median sales price for something different. You get to choose what shows up in each of those blocks. And then you can choose your specific area. So it tells you at the top, this is for Cape Coral, Fort Myers, MSA for single family homes. If you were to add in condos, it would tell you condos. If you were to do all of Florida, this title up there is going to change so the consumer knows exactly what it is that they're looking at. And then the one other thing is with this one, you can change it from a landscape to a square shape, depending on what your social media
For
needs
Instagram.
are. I know, but Instagram's not just square anymore.
Mostly square.
I mean, you're mostly square, but that's okay. So these are the different options that you have. And again, this works a lot like Domus Analytics. It's got just one chart builder and one infographic, but this is great because now you can travel around the whole state of Florida, pull data, you can compare and contrast you know, different cities. Like I said, we get a lot of calls about Sarasota. Do you have something to say?
No, I was just, I mean, it's great to compare the state to your local city, your local MSA. It's also great to you know, be able to kind of show affordability.
Yeah.
You know, if we're more affordable than Sarasota, it's nice to show that. And it's also great if you have people that come down and they're looking to either move here, Sarasota, or you know, East Coast, be able to pull this information, make it part of their packet when you sit down at that conversation. So having this is great. I think I love their infographics. I love their infographic builder. I used it when I was in the industry. You know, it is simple. It's very, very simple. And it's easy because this is something that you'd have to do in Canva. And if you're not creative, like I'm not, you're not, you know what I'm saying? So it does it for you.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, the colors are the colors, but it's awesome. I mean, you compare us to Naples, you know, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So I like it. I like it. It's a great tool.
Yeah, they are a different MSA. What is an MSA, Jason?
It's what you said before, Joanna.
So if you guys have any questions regarding Domus Analytics or Sunstats, I can hop back into them real quick. But again, you can call us, you can email us anytime. We can help you out with these tools. I do just encourage you to go out there, get into it, play around with it, you know, so that you're comfortable with it. So the next time that somebody does ask you that question, you can easily access this tool and pull up exactly what those questions are. Make your life a little bit easier. Again, you can't break it. Go out there, play with it. You'll be really interested to see what you find. I go down a rabbit hole with this all the time, but I think it's just because we're data nerds, so.
You are, but when I talk to the new agents and new member orientation,
Yes.
it's one of the things I bring up is that, you know, when you work with a professional, knowing the market, being educated, having a license, you know, all this
Mhm.
stuff is price of admission, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you go get surgery from a doctor, he says, well, I got a medical degree and I've done this before. Okay, but why do you go to that doctor, right? Because you know, why does Dr. France do most of the LASIK surgeries in Lee County? Because he is the, you know, one of the best at what he does and that type of thing. He does it by volume, right? So the experience is a volume. So I think it's important that this is a price of admission, very basic, ground level as somebody that's a consumer in real estate now that doesn't have a, you know, that's using a realtor. It is, I expect the people that I work with to know the marketplace better than I do. And I know I'm in the business, and it's not hard to do with the average consumer, but also remember, the average consumer can get this information on Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get the information, or they're gonna get it from a portal that may not have good information.
Mhm.
You know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, I always taught the fact that the MLS value right now, 'cause I know we took commissions out of it back in August 1st.
We what?
We took commissions out of it. Yeah,
That's news.
you were around. We took commission out of it, but the value still is the data and the accuracy of the data, right? People like to talk, whatever numbers they want to talk. This is coming right out of our data set, and this is part of Florida Realtors. They get a live feed every single month from us. So they're pulling this right from our MLS. So the numbers should match Domus and Florida Realtors, you know, apples to apples. But the value is having that data at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. All right, well, we are right at 12 on the dot. I don't see any other questions. But I appreciate you guys joining us today. If you do come across any questions while you're playing with the tools, give us a call.